I have no business card because it's 20. Okay, thank you.
That means you have five. So that's kind of for those programs. Now for the research.
We're good now. I just checked in on my phone.
Right.
We should just mute. I was gonna tell you. You could like pan it around a little bit so people can see. Those.
I should be able to keep my mouth shut. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our program, and we're in celebratory mode. So we want to have you continue to meet and greet with your colleagues. Use this as an opportunity to do all the things that ABA does, and that is about being together in community and socializing and making those connections and getting that support and all the things. Don't leave here without getting whatever connection you need to have with whatever colleague you need to have it with. That is what we do. We do have some boxed meals. We were concerned about eating together, but we know that eating together is a big thing in our communities. So we wanted to make sure that we had food, but that maybe we would take it away with us to make sure everyone stays safe. So we are going to start the program. And the first thing we want to do is to acknowledge our ancestors that have gone on ahead of us and are preparing nice ABA conferences for us. And so we do have a slide in memoriam for those members, and then Whitney is going to come and do a memoriam for us. Thank you, Whitney. Our new president-elect of the AAA.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Let's try that again. Good evening, everyone. Wake up. Good evening. Now, it's not Sunday, I know that, but we're going to start this celebration and sitting with community in the right way. So we should not do anything until we thank those ancestors, those whose names we know, those who are directly related to us, those whose names hopefully one day we will learn, and those whose names we will never know. But we have them and we hold them in our heart forever. I want to say that it is extremely important for us to understand the shoulders that we stand upon. It is so wonderful to see young people here, people in between, some of us, and our elders, and some of us getting closer to elders than we would like to admit, but that's fine. But I want to ask you all to just take a moment to reflect. 2020, 2021, but we're still here. We are still here and we are still doing the work of uplift. We are doing the tradition that ABA and before ABA, which we learned from Lee Baker this evening, when I was in my car. Just multitasking, you know how it goes. But that we learn about the traditions and how we are here to change what anthropology has been and what anthropology can be. We can do that. I believe it. I guess that's why I ran. Okay. So this is a fake plant, but this is some water. Water or I don't need a microphone. Water or Indoraba, which is Omi Tutu, cold water. Water is the balance between life and death, right? Death is a part of life, but I want to say water is how we access the past, the ancestors. And so, where I'm from, which is a place called New York City, some brothers and sisters, they pour a little out before they drink. Well, that's what this is. That is pouring libation. That is giving thanks to those who are no longer here. So I want to, as I pour a little bit in this fake plant. No, I didn't know what on the bottom of that. That's very strange. Okay, it's supposed to look like dirt, sorry. So as I pour a little bit at a time, I'm gonna do it a couple of times. I encourage you all, silently or out loud, to say the names of somebody that you want to remember, okay? So as I pour it out, I will ask you to say some names, silently or out loud, okay? Here we go, we're pouring some libation. Go ahead, say it.
Tayo.
Okay, come on, y'all.
Ira Harrison.
All right, come on.
Stephen Gregory.
Y'all are so quiet. Okay. 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 Okay, it's a carpet. It's calling me. Okay, there we go. That's what we're going to do with the rest of the water. So I want to thank you for starting it this way. And I think that we should start things this way sometimes. It brings us together and it reminds us how connected we actually are. Thank you all, and Ashe.
So we did want to be intentional about remembering Dr. Lee Mullings, Dr. Stephen Gregory, and Dr. Tayo Lovingly Jalalsho. The next part of our program is to honor our awardees.
Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right.
Ancestors. Moving things around.
I'll clean that up for you.
The next part of our program is to, the next part of our program is not to do our awardees just yet. You saw as you were coming in that we had photos that were meant to show some of our history. We want to get those photos going again so that you all can see those. And while we're doing that, we would like to invite anyone who would like to give reflections, just maybe a 2-minute reflection on your experiences with ABA. We encourage some of our older, more seasoned members, our wiser members, to tell us a little bit about their experiences with ABA. Remember that this is our 50th reception, and while it's not as big and as grand as we would like, because we're still dealing with COVID, we want to use this time to really acknowledge this space. We do have people joining us online, so we're still all in community in this celebration. So we want to invite anyone who would like to offer some remarks. 2 minutes, 1 minute.
We can also bring a microphone over to you as well.
Yes. Please don't be shy.
Hello, ABA. All right, everyone. So my name is Yolanda Covington Ward, and what was that? Yes, ma'am, I can do that. All right. My name is Yolanda Covington Ward. I've been a member of ABA since I was a graduate student. And I remember coming to my first AAA conference and walking into an ABA meeting and finally feeling like I belonged, right? I was the only African-American in my entire cohort of over 40 people at the University of Michigan. Always felt like I stood out, right? And always felt like I had to represent, right? And always questioned whether or not anthropology was really for me. And so walking into an ABA meeting, I felt welcomed, I felt affirmed, and I felt like I found a place where I could be myself, my full Black self, my loud Black self, my dancing Black self, and my intellectual Black self. So I want to thank ABA for allowing that space for us to be our full selves. Thank you.
We have others? Thanks, Lee. Lee always saves the day. Always saves the day, right?
I just want to say what has been so edifying for me as an anthropologist, as a scholar, as a mentor, is to have an experience of intergenerational mentorship with the ABA. And so it's been so interesting, kind of, I don't know, edifying, I guess is the best word for this, is to see how sort of different generations mentor each other and hand folks off, such that we now sort of get, I was joking with Chelsea Carter back there, who Bianca is her mentor, that I'm her grandfather mentor, which then I hate to say, Faye, that makes and Michael, right? And so, and having the opportunity to mentor your mentor's son is just wild, right? And so it's kind of this intergenerational family of care that has been, and you only see it after you're like 30 years in, right? So it's just, that to me has been one of the highest experiences, to see this sort of intergenerational turnover, and then to see how strong ABA is because of that. Like, that's part of the sauce, I think, or part of the Black boy and girl magic of ABA, is that we care over the generations. And to me, that's what makes ABA so powerful.
Thank you. We have others. Anyone else want to say, oh,
So we have a tradition within the ABA of voluntelling people things, right? So I got voluntold to run for president. And, and, and so I'm gonna volunteer, if I may, Dr. Sheila Walker. Because I get a kick out of every single time her telling the story of notes from the natives. And I think there are probably people here who haven't heard that beginning tale of how we got to what is now transforming anthropology, which came as Dr. Michael Blakey became the first editor. So I'm gonna volunteer you too.
Let's see. The first time to see all of you is sort of shocking. In that the first time I came to a AAA meeting, there was the one colored woman way over there in a sea of whiteness. And I'm gonna take this off because I'm more than 6 feet from everybody. So it was not a great experience. And one of the well-known anthropologists, I remember hearing this person, trying to leave her anonymous, said, "We've got to start watching what we write because the natives are learning how to read." And I thought, wait a minute, what have these people been telling me now if they don't want the natives to know what they're saying about them? That was my first year in graduate school. And I thought if I went to the AAA, I'd learn a lot of important stuff. Well, I guess I did. I went to the University of Chicago, and it was terrible. My undergraduate anthropology professors had said it was the best department in the nation. Maybe, but I don't know why, and I never figured out why. And I wanted to do my research on US African American culture and those white men, because that's what they all were. Some of their wives were allowed to teach in the college, not in the graduate school. They just said it didn't exist, that we didn't have any culture. And one person said, well, give me an example, with a real sneer. And I said, well, the dozens. And he said, the dozens are dead. So just today, I was talking with Alicia, is that the right name? I don't know. Maybe I got her name wrong. Anyway, she said that the dozens are alive and well. And when this man told me the dozens were dead, I told that to a friend of mine, and she said he better come over to the hood and tell my kids that the dozens are dead, because they be playing the dozens all the time. So it was like that. And once I went to talk to my graduate advisor about my research, my doctoral research, and out of the clear blue sky in Chicago in February, so it was gray, he said, well, you should be a singer or a dancer. And I thought, why? And he said, because you're too happy to be an anthropologist. So I got 3 stereotypes all strung together all at the same time. And anthropologist was not in the stereotype, so it was impossible. And I told him, it took me a while to learn. I told him that I would like to do research with an African or African diasporan group because I had a wonderful experience living with a family in Cameroon as an antidote to my white elite college where I was the colored girl in my class. I needed some balance. I spent a summer in Cameroon with a wonderfully Pan-African family who just assumed the African diaspora and just assumed that I was part of it. I didn't know all that yet, but I found out quickly. And so I told this guy that I would like to, because I had been so well received in Africa, I thought, yeah, makes sense. And he told me that no, I would have no advantage in doing research in an African or African diasporan society. A good anthropologist is a good anthropologist. When I went back to Cameroon and told my Cameroonian family that, they said, what? We saw you as a daughter. We would have seen him as a colonialist. So, but I hadn't really learned. Then the same man who told me I would have no advantage doing research on the people I wanted to do research with, tried to hire me to do research in Chicago
in a Black community. So I'm sure all that has changed and none of this happens anymore. At one AAA meeting, there was a gathering of proto-anthropologists of color. And everybody had the same story, the Native Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, African Americans. And it was all the professor tries to use you as Native informant and then denies your ability to do research on your own community. So as a result of all this, once there started to be more than 2 African American anthropologists at a AAA meeting, we talked initially about needing a means of communication. So I figured when you talk about something, then you should do something. And so I was a research assistant at Harvard, and Jerome Wright and Carol Henderson Tyson and Beverly Bruce were graduate students in anthropology. So I suggested that they come over and that we create a newsletter, because we've been talking about having a means of communication. Well, let's just create it. And so we created, you saw the first page of the first edition of News from the Natives. And we chose that term because we'd all been used as natives. I went to the University of Chicago. Well, it's surrounded by Black communities. So it was the colonizer. So our point was, you call us natives, fine. The natives are going to speak back. We're going to speak in our own voice. We're going to tell our own stories the way we want to tell our stories. And one of the rubrics that we promised from number 1 was, we called it with respect to our elders, with both meanings of with respect to. Because we didn't know that we had intellectual elders at that point. And so we began looking around and we started with W. Montague Cobb, the creator of the Cobb Laboratory at Howard that analyzed the remains of the African burial ground. And a physical anthropologist, who knew about him? But that's where we started. I don't know, I have numbers 1, 2, and 4. I don't have number 3. So I don't know who we profiled, but somebody. And so I did a few issues, and then I ceased to be the editor, and then I came back as the editor for reasons I don't understand. But when I came back, we had columns. John Waltney had a great column. And it was wonderful to have these columns, because that gave us continuity. And Rhett Jones, he was an historian, he also had a column. And these were wonderful critical columns. People wrote articles. That's when transforming anthropology started to begin. It was still called Notes from the ABA. We got criticized by some of our elders about natives. Why are you going to call us natives? We thought we were right, though. Anyway, so that's part of the evolution. And when I thought about getting a legacy award, I thought, legacy, what is my legacy? And I thought of all the things I did that I wasn't supposed to do. Like, I had lived in Africa, and when I came back, people asked me all these questions. And so I started writing articles for Essence magazine. I didn't know that was a sin. To popularize, why do you want to write for 10,000 people when you can write for 5 people who are just going to criticize you? And so I got letters from people writing for Essence and Ebony and Emerge and stuff, and really nice letters about how reading about themselves had changed their lives. I wrote an article about African American naming traditions, and I got letters from people saying, I didn't know my name was African, Cuff, Kofi, Kwash, Kwashi. Wow, now that I know. And other people wrote and said, I'm going to change my name. I want something meaningful. But I was criticized for that, both by some of my African American elders. Why are you wasting your time writing that stuff? How many people are reading it? A lot. Why wouldn't we think we were responsible for popularizing the information that we gathered as researchers? So that was part of my legacy, I thought. The tenure battle. Now, I'm sure none of you had any tenure battles, but I'm writing a memoir. I've been writing it for most of my life. I'm going to finish in 2022. And I'm enjoying writing this life. It keeps evolving, But I had a 3-year tenure battle. Tenure should take about a year or so. It took 3 years. And I realized, the second Black woman to be tenured at the University of California at Berkeley, the first outside of Afro-American studies. And thinking about language. I have all the records. That was when you got written stuff with a signature. And so, so I have their writings to me that were basically insulting, and then my criticizing what they had to say about me. And at one point, the very nice chancellor characterized my research as almost indolent. Ooh, did I have a lot to say about that? Isn't that the lazy Negro stereotype, but in fancy language? Anyway, I won. And so now I get to write about that. I get to write about the people in Chicago saying I want to be a singer or a dancer. And so, but then I talked to a friend. She said, yeah, well, you have another legacy, right? You know, you have books, you have documentaries. And I was so pleased when Riche said, oh, yeah, I use your book. I read your book. I thought, really? A friend of mine was talking about someone he knew who had written some law book, very important law book, he thought. And a student said, yeah, you know, I bought your book and I read it and I really liked it. And he said, oh, you're the one. So that's what I kind of thought when Riche talked about my book, but I hope she's not the only one who's ever heard of my book. But I realized a lot of what I did was in response to something. I had a conference in 1996 on the African diaspora in the modern world. And I had it because I was mad. And I was mad, you know, the angry Black woman, right? Yeah, we always have reasons to be angry. And I was mad because the UNESCO had created, there's a long story about this, the Slave Route Project. Well, I didn't like the name, and I objected to the name, but they used it anyway. I lost that battle. And then they created a scientific committee, and I suggested to the person in charge, well, why don't you do something revolutionary? Instead of just inviting the white people who write about us, why don't you invite some of us to talk about our stories? And this man said, no, we need high-level people. Why did he say that to me? And I had suggested that he invite a specific Afro-Colombian who was a major Afro-Colombian leader of a major movement. Well, he didn't. He invited the white woman who wrote about Afro-Colombians. And I was having breakfast with her and with a Nigerian historian in Benin at the launching of this slavery project. And the Nigerian historian asked this woman, well, why are there no Afro-Colombians here? And she said, well, they don't have anthropologists and historians, and I represent their interests. I was there. You know, nobody told me. Those were her words. So when I had a conference, I invited him. I didn't invite her. From Uruguay. I invited an Afro-Uruguayan, and he said, how can I come talk at a university when I didn't have the privilege to go to a university? And I said, you have two choices. You can come and tell your story, or you can give me the name of the white man to whom you gave your information so that he can tell your story and make his career on your back. He came, and he was fine. So I have a lot of stories, but you know, I can't tell them all, obviously. Anyway, that conference was called the African Diaspora in the Modern World, 1996. And I thought by now so I have, today I showed a documentary that's from it. And I thought that by now it would be obsolete. Well, it should be, but unfortunately when I show it, people are like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Wow. And my big disappointment in me when I organized that conference was I didn't invite people from every place in the Americas. I was missing some of Latin America. And so I got some money, I was at Spelman, I got some money to get together Afro-Latin Americans. And from that, I totally lost my mind. And we did a book in Spanish that I had studied for a year in a previous century. And these folks were not researchers. And some of them, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, didn't exist. There were no Afro-Chileans, there were no Afro-Argentinians, no Afro-Bolivians, no Afro-Paraguayans. In spite of the fact that they didn't exist, we invited them to our first conference, they all came. In the final analysis, they all wrote an article about their own people. They became researchers that they didn't expect to be. I asked one, Angola Maconde from Bolivia. When I met him, he gave me his name, and he said, we don't have any African culture. I said, Angola Maconde, you invented the name. I asked him, I figured, well, he won't have much to say, 20 pages. He kept saying, oh, I can't send it. I have to go back to the archives. He gave me 70 pages about Afro-Bolivians. So these folks are really enthusiastic about their first opportunity to tell their stories themselves from their points of view, contradicting all the lies that have been told about them. And so this year, that project ate my life yet again, and we updated it, and it should be published ideally in Spanish, Portuguese, and English next year. Conocimiento desde adentro. That's enough for me. And Michael's next. I talked a lot, I'm sorry, I got a lot.
So what can I say about the ABA and my connection with it? I can start. I was a student at Howard, an anthropology student, and probably the most dynamic point of Howard University's anthropology program. So the early 70s, there were 9 anthropologists there, which is more than would ever be there before or after. Many of them, most of them, Black anthropologists. I was just like a kid who had been enthralled with LSB Leakey's findings as a middle schooler and high schooler. Well, I also was involved in politics, but that's another issue. Finding myself at Howard interested in anthropology. And who was there? Jerry Wright, one of you all, founders of Notes from the Natives, and others, very interested in it. In the early 70s, there was great promise. We thought we were going to change the world. Maybe we all do. But we were aware of it as a mission. And so we read Notes from the Natives like it was a promise of a world involving anthropology and Blacks in anthropology that we would create. And so that's how I heard of Sheila Walker as a freshman student. And so I went to UMass, Will and Howard went to UMass, and came back on faculty, still dedicated to this idea. But by then, most of those folks had left. HBCUs have a very strained relationship with anthropology. For reasons we know that are reasonable. Some you might not be aware of that are not so reasonable. But it ebbs and it flows. And so when I came back, I was still on the mission that my teachers were on when I left. It was then in the early 80s when I first came to my first ABA meeting, I believe. And there, the mission continued. There was still this, and I think Lee said it, it's about family. We're a social species, for sure. And an intellectually engaged social species. And here we have what I think of as a better conversation than takes place out there. An alternative universe to the rest of the AAA meetings. Sometimes, and recently, I have shifted to African American studies, to Africana studies, for the same better conversation. So I had the privilege of being elected president of the ABA in '87. And then we had a mission. Faye was vice president. Iris Ford was secretary, I believe. And the mission that that was necessarily in front of us was the decision of whether we would become a unit of the AAA or be separate. That's actually, I think, a good question. Always a good question. I think it's always good to be in a position to leave. If you're not in a position to leave, you are not empowered when you stay. And so, and Ted Gordon, right? The Austin folks were, why would we stay with these people? It's a good question. So we decided to stay, and it's worked as well as it has worked thus far. But I do think it's always good to have options. The other thing that was important to me, and Sheila brought it up, was to continue to develop our institutionalization. And we had developed a sort of an archival initiative. But the most important is, and I was hearing it from LeBub at the main meetings today, that the journal is one of the main ways in which one holds an organization together, communicates for an organization like this, our ideas, and at times through institutional subscriptions gains money. But by that time it was notes from the ABA. And I felt, okay, this would be an important contribution. Faye was all the way there. We need to develop this as a journal, because it was not. I don't know, it's almost mimeographed. You don't know what that is.
I remember.
And maybe I'll say this, because we're telling the truth. There were some in the ABA who were comfortable with things as they were. And so it was difficult, but it was a point of, well, I decided we were going to develop this thing now, and I kind of had to peel people's fingers off of it. Sometimes you just gotta do what you need to do if you think it's right. And that's what we did. And Arthur was there. He did the hard work, right? Take it on as an editor and build this journal that I remember a meeting, and I'm about to finish the meeting, wherever we were. And you and I, Faye, had ideas about a name for this journal that weren't quite working. Because we're in a meeting, we're like this, trying to decide out what are we gonna call this thing? And I don't know, now this is how I remember it, I might be wrong. And as we're having this discussion, it came to mind that what people were saying was transforming anthropology, and it came out of my mouth. Huh?
I remember differently.
Okay.
Michael, you've told that story before, okay? It was your mentor, Janetta Cole, because we were saying, should we call it decolonizing? Should we call it? We were getting at the notion of, transforming it, and she says, transforming anthropology. And then we all reiterated it, yes, and that's what you're remembering, what you heard. Wow. I don't know. So many stories, potentially. My first AAA ABA meeting was 1975, the year I started graduate school at Stanford. It would be, I came to conferences periodically, particularly once I reached the point of being professionalized. After my research, I had data, so I could really write a paper and present it. And so 1980, I think, was the first meeting where I was official anthropologist, right before I got my PhD. But it was in 83 when I got involved with the ABA. I'm a young assistant professor go to the ABA, and I had an opportunity to get involved. And you said you're telling the truth. I think even in 75, there were signs that all was not well, although I was very impressed. You know, I think it was, I don't know if Ansel was the president at that time. You know, so in terms of what I call the public performance, you know, the meetings tend to be forums. They tend to be stages where a lot of performance happens. And it's very impressive. You know, it's very therapeutic for many of us, given wherever we are, we're struggling against hostility, not just microaggressions. I'm saying there's mesoaggressions, there's macroaggressions. And when they all come together and impact one's body, woo! But in 83, it was clear that the association was in crisis, if I can use that term, because that was the year, I think, Lynn was president and Lynn was expecting. All right. And so those circumstances when she ran and whatever, I don't know if you anticipated, you know, it would be difficult to combine, you know, all that stuff. So anyway, Tony Whitehead was, I think, the president-elect. There was nothing on the AAA program that had ABA on it. No business meetings, no sessions, whatever. And some of us just informally congregated and says, and so we met in Tony's his hotel. And I remember Michael being there, Count Taylor at one point, Janetta, I don't know who else, but some of us with energy and optimism volunteered to do whatever it would take. Yeah, Ira was there, and at that time, I think Ira was the Southern representative, because we had regional networks and people who represented it. So when there is the Northeastern Anthropological Association, whoever is the Northern rep will use that as an opportunity to call a meeting. At least that's what happened in California when I was a graduate student. And that's what Ira did in the South. So I said, well, I volunteered to work with Ira because I was in Kentucky. I will help at the regional level. And then over years, I ended up volunteering. I was regional. I ended up editing what was then notes from the ABA, whatever needed to be done, I did. And eventually, you know, I ran for office. And I didn't want to because I was an assistant professor. And I said, I'm not supposed to take on any more service than I had already had. I got to get tenure. And I remember Michael saying, I think the EPA might be able to help you get tenure. No how, but I ran and had the honor to work with Michael and then to carry on. Michael's idea was we need to transition from notes from the ABA to a journal. Arthur was willing and able. And the last two issues of notes from the ABA were peer reviewed. So we put in motion, you know, some of the capacities, some of the procedures that would define TA as a peer reviewed journal. We did it, you know, with whatever we had. And I don't know if we were mimeographing. I think that was doing it. Sheila's era. We had computers, but we were basically typing stuff. Or whatever. You know, I don't think there were any graphics, nothing. It was just the basics. But I'm saying the content, if I say I have an archive, the content of it was news from it, and then notes from it, intellectual stuff where people rehearsed ideas, not peer reviewed or jury articles, but I'm saying there were intellectually potent contents. In addition to the newsy stuff, the announcements about jobs, the this and that. But I wrote a paper once about all those columns, the things that Anselm wrote, the things that Janetta wrote. It showed that we were diasporic. In a lot of ways, we modeled what WOW, which is the World Anthropological Union, calls world anthropologies. I said we had a Black-centered world anthropologies, and we were internationalists in the sense that anyone who basically is committed to what our principles are, you are welcome. And so we were actually not only pluri-ethnic as Blacks, we were also, I mean, there were always somebody else in the room who was an honorary Black. And I'm saying years later, my student, Kim Davidson-Buck, decided that she was going to take her anti-white supremacy stance and joined the AAA, and the only section she joined was the ABA. And she worked, she was secretary treasurer for 2 whole terms. And nobody seemed to mind. All right, because I think she had an opportunity to feel as she became part of the community, and she was respected as someone who, in some ways, maybe was a race traitor. You know, she was consistent about that, and she still is today. So my understanding of the ABA is in a lot of ways, we have represented the model for what the AAA is not, but could potentially become were it to practice what it preaches. You know, because we have lots of wonderfully progressive declarations. I came from the business meeting, I was there for 5 minutes. You know, the AAA, did you know, now is an anti-racist organization? Well, by the declarations, by the fact that it's given the APA an award for as being an exemplar. But then as a section, it's part of the AAA. So the AAA can now claim that it is, you know, anti-Black, anti-settler colonialism, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm saying there are those elements within this association, for sure. But Wednesday night, I said there's anthropology with the uppercase A, and then there's anthropology with the lowercase. The uppercase, Louis Althusser would probably characterize as an apparatus of the state. Because the family, the church, school education, all those things, he, in a sense, in his structural Marxist sense, anticipated Foucault, you know, whose notion of power is capillary, it's everywhere and whatever. All right. So as I see it, I think that we have modeled in a lot of ways what anthropology, at least anthropologies, distributed all over the world, this nation state, has potential to become if it were to practice what it preaches, if it were to truly excavate those deep layers of anti-Blackness that even anti-racist white people and other people of color had, despite the fact that at the cognitive level, I'm not a racist. I'm not a racist. But psychological tests, research has shown that you get a group of progressive, liberal, white people who consistently, one of my best friends is Black or whatever. But tests designed to discern subliminal level showed that it's a high probability or frequency of all those folks associating Black folk with apes and monkeys. So is that anti-racist? or whatever. So that suggests that, yeah, I mean, we have to go beyond the cognitive level, the surface of declarations and whatever, and think about something that is deeply stratified, deeply. And using that archaeological metaphor, you got to excavate deep, deep, deep. And if we're talking about transforming ourselves, you know, we have to do that. And as Black people, I'm saying we also internalize anti-Blackness in a lot of ways. And to regurgitate that is a struggle. It's a lifelong struggle. It's transgenerational, et cetera, et cetera. But you make a commitment, you develop convictions. A question someone asked on Wednesday, I said that. You asked that, Shugongo. I'm saying, this is anthropology with the triple A's, all upper cases. But within it, there are sections. There are sites that are sanctuaries, that sites, you know, I guess some people say fugitive sites, or whatever, where a lot of amazing things can happen. In my experience, the ABA is one of those sites which allowed me to feel at home. It's a sanctuary. And I have an identity consistent with that. If I had had to rely on the places where I've worked, or even, you know, graduate school, although I think I went to a good place at a good moment in terms of who's there. I wouldn't be an anthropologist today if I had to depend on, you know, a typical department as being the grounding for your identity formation, particularly, I say personally and particularly professionally. But the ABA, and maybe there's a couple of other sections that have worked. And for me, part of the IUAS, the International Union of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences, some of the commissions have been places where people come together and they do extraordinary things, or that we're able to, that we cannot do in our departments. We cannot do any place else. And so it's important to build those sites of sanctuary and of planting some of the seeds of transformation. These are intentional communities. They don't just happen because you have an official name and you say in 1970, we are the Association of Black Anthropologists or whatever. Nah, that's a ritual of legitimation. All right, it's not the same as breathing three-dimensionality into a formation that really reflects something that's living, that's changing, and that has the potential, the capacity to grow, expand, to continue in the future, living legacies of what we call the ancestors and the elders. Yeah, so beyond the rhetoric and the declarations, you know, it's up to us to translate, operationalize, and make things real.
Thank you so much, Faye. Everybody, I invite you to come to our ABA at 50 session tomorrow, where Faye will be on panel with other members of ABA who have been in leadership in ABA, and will be talking in more detail about all of the things that Faye just talked about, and that Sheila and Michael also shared with us. We want to take this time now to celebrate our ABA Legacy Award winners, Dr. Sheila S. Walker and Dr. Michael Blakey. Would you come up and receive your awards, please?
Yes, please come up and receive your awards. Folks, you want to take any pictures? That's your opportunity. Hold up. Thank you so much.
For the rest of the program, we will be continuing with celebrations, celebrating our ABA awardees. First off, we have our Janetta B. Cole Student Travel Award winners for 2021. Jillian Maris Jones. Hopefully Jillian is here, but if not, there was one of the awardees that was coming to the meetings and one that was going to participate virtually. But I encourage all of our students, graduate student or undergraduate, to apply for the Janetta B. Cole Student Travel Award. It pays for or offsets the cost of attending the meetings. And it is for those students who have submitted a presentation or poster and that has been accepted, and then they are able to receive funds to offset the costs. That's right. Alyssa is the one who is present. Hopefully she is here. Yay. Alyssa A.L. James. Next, we have the John L. Gwatney Native Anthropology Award winner, Chelsea R. Carter. The Gwatney Award goes to early career anthropologists who are doing work in the spirit of Dr. John L. Gwatney and in the spirit of doing Native work. Dr. Carter's project is really fantastic. She's doing ethnographic work that explores how Black and white Americans living with ALS in St. Louis, Missouri, engage with racialized landscapes of care. Her winning essay was ALS While Black, Locating Bias, Dismissal, and Medical Racism. Chelsea is well on her way to incredibly great things. So the Gwatney Award comes with a research fund. So Chelsea will be getting that as well. We wanted to take this time also to introduce some new ABA awards. We felt that it was time for us to have a book award. And in honor of our great I guess, Shiro, Dr. Leith Mullings. We have decided to name it the Leith Mullings Association of Black Anthropologists Distinguished Book Award. We'll be working on the guidelines for that award, so that's not available just yet, but will become something that folks can apply for moving forward. And we intend for it to be a first book type of award to start, possibly growing into something more extensive as we continue giving the award. But we, again, are still working on the guidelines, so those things might shift, but do know that is coming, the Leith Mullings Association of Black Anthropologists Distinguished Book Award. We are also in recognizing the incredible impact Omotayo, whom we call Tayo Jalalsho, made to the ABA for the entire time that they were a part of the ABA, working very extensively with the mentoring program. We have decided to create a fellowship program that will be in the spirit of the things that Tayo was always bringing to our meetings. Tayo was always pushing us to be mindful of self-care, of the importance of performance ethnography, of the importance of thinking through the different ways in which we show up in the world. Tayo was very committed to LGBTQ issues and initiatives, and was an incredible mentor to so many people. And so, again, we haven't worked out all the guidelines, but we want to make sure that we do something in memory of Tayo, because Tayo made such an amazing impact, I think, on everybody that they met. I don't know anybody who knew Tayo who, when we lost her, didn't have like some incredible story of what Tayo had done, some joy that Tayo had brought them, a postcard that they had sent to them. And so we, the executive board, decided that Tayo was a person whose work in the world was something that we wanted to continue and name it as such. The other thing that we are doing is renaming the Legacy Award after Mr. ABA himself, Dr. Ira E. Harrison. And so it will be the Ira E. Harrison Lifetime Achievement Award moving forward. So we, again, just want to, as Whitney said earlier, recognize the importance of our ancestors, remember that they are always with us, and we want to continue doing these types of things as we move forward with the organization. We're 50 years old, which means we have lost some people over the years, and it's important for us to recognize them and name them, keep their memory strong, and this is one of our attempts at doing that. We also want to recognize all of our presence all over the AAA this year. It's crazy. We want to recognize Dr. Michael Blakey, who also got the AAA President's Award this year. Congratulations to you, Dr. Blakey, well deserved. Bianca Williams, we know you're not present, but we hope you are watching. We thank you for your work on this conference. For those of you who don't know, Bianca was our program, what's it called? Chair, thank you, program chair for the conference this year. And we also want to congratulate Bianca on also receiving the AAA President's Award for this year. We congratulate Lynn Bowles, who received the AAA Gender Equity Award this year. Lynn's right over there. If you wave your hand, Lynn, so everybody can see. And then Dr. Faye Harrison gave an incredible AAA distinguished lecture on Wednesday. And also Dr. Irma McLaurin, who received the AAA Engaged Anthropology Award this year. We also want to congratulate our members who are taking leadership in other sections. Outgoing president of the Association for Africanist Anthropology, Yolanda Covington Ward, who is here with us this evening. And our very own Lorian Bowles, who has been so fabulous as communications VP, is now president-elect of the Association for Africanist Anthropology. We also want to congratulate Julie Grigsby, who is president-elect for the Society for the Anthropology of North America. I'm not sure if Julie is here, but we'll copy it. And we did not make a slide for Whitney. I don't know how that happened, but as we have been exclaiming over and over and over again, Whitney Battle Baptiste is the new president-elect for the American Anthropological Association. So congratulations. I want to take a few minutes as outgoing president of the Association of Black Anthropologists to thank everyone who has been on the ABA executive board with me for the past 2 years. It has been an amazing ride. I need for each one of you to stand up and let everybody know who you are. Stand, stand, stand. Stand proudly. This is not everyone. We had a very full and vibrant executive board for the last 2 years. Hopefully you all have been paying attention to the programming that we have been doing, the outreach that we have been doing through the Communications Collective, bringing together this reception. According to Bianca, we are all over the program, so much so that the Catherine Dunham event, which is also an ABA event, was scheduled for the same time as our reception. And when I tried to yell at Bianca about it, like, how could you put this at the same time? You know, we all want to be in the same spaces. She said if we moved anything, it was going to bump up against an ABA event. So, so yay us. I also want to give a special shout out to our ABA 50th committee, which included Donna Alyssa Fisher, Lynn Bowles, and Cheryl Rodriguez. They have been just phenomenal, and let me tell you why they're so phenomenal. We've been celebrating ABA at 50 for 2 years. We started last year and put together a whole program for the virtual conference. And they were a part of making sure that we celebrated, hopefully many of you saw it, the virtual program that we put on that had many of our elders on one session having a conversation about ABA, the things that it was a part of politically, within AAA and also outside of the AAA. Donna Alyssa Fisher, Lynn Bowles, and Cheryl Rodriguez were running all of that, putting all of those things together. And in addition, came up with a fantastic gift that if you are a member of the ABA, you will be receiving in the mail. So hopefully you're a member. So be on the lookout for that in your mail. And if your mail for the AAA is at your office, it'll be there. So wherever your mail is for the AAA, that's where your gift will be reaching you. I now have to take a moment to say thank you to Lee Baker and to Burton Louis, who have been my brothers in struggle. Y'all, we've been doing work, a lot of work. We've been getting into good trouble. We have some more good trouble on the horizon. If you haven't checked out the listserv recently, we sent out a resolution. We're pushing some buttons with the AAA, so take a look at that. And they have been with me receiving texts like, should we do this? What should we do about this? Looking over documents that we needed to send out, being on several different meetings, calls, everything you can think of. And at the same time, just being incredibly patient with me, gracious, allowing me to apologize for and continue to do all the things that we needed to do. I am so excited that Lee was such a huge part of me running and being elected to president. Lee has been an incredible mentor to me. I'm not his student. So let me just say to the students who are here and the early career folks, my advisors at my university when I was getting my doctorate didn't know what I was working on. They didn't have any idea of the kind of work that I was trying to do. And Janetta Cole told me to get involved in the ABA, and this is where I found my advisors. This is where I found my mentors. These are the folks that have advised me on jobs, on negotiations, on tenure, on everything. And like Faye said earlier, I wouldn't have continued to be an anthropologist without this organization. I know that for sure. This I know for sure, quoting Oprah. So thank you, Lee. Thank you. And Lee, for those of you who don't know, Lee stepped in at a time when we were a little shaky to take on being interim president the year before I became president, and then continued on as secretary treasurer. So I just thank you so much. We wouldn't have been able to do it. And the budget is beautiful. We have money, y'all. And then Bert. I call this man brother. And we knew each other before we became president and president-elect, but we had never really had like a substantial conversation. It was just kind of like, hey. Thank you. We in good hands with this one, and I am turning it over now. I'm done.
Oh, I love this organization. I just love it. It's just, it models what we need. Absolutely not models what we need. I just want to talk a little bit briefly about ABA moving forward. Now that I'm stepping into the presidency, and Jemima Pierre, who could not be here, will be our president-elect. Huh? Before? Oh, look at that. Nice. Thank you, Risha, I appreciate that. Jamima Pierre will be our president-elect, and Shanti Parikh will serve as our secretary treasurer. So essentially, with ABA moving forward, if you pay attention to the listserv, we have a decision about our journal, which we've heard the history of the journal this evening. And we have a decision that'll be coming up soon about where the journal will possibly be. Will it continue to be with the AAA or somewhere else? So I'll help guide that decision along with the great team that we've created here. Another thing we're going to do is continue like our online events. I think in light of the pandemic, we needed to come together, and there was so much sorrow and misery during this pandemic. But through the wonders of technology, there's also been a lot of joy. We've been able to convene with each other. We've been able to be with each other more than once a year. So, I used to have to wait for this moment right here once a year. And now we can do this several times a year, which is awesome, and with all these different events. So we're going to continue to do that. And then we'll also continue to produce statements because of the foolishness of the outside of the ABA. In particular, I think with the last statements we put out, I think with relation to what happened with the remains of those moved children, it became crystal clear to me that this organization is like we many times serve as a conscience of the AAA. And we need to continue to put out those statements and continue to do the things that we do to keep things moving forward. And then the next thing that we're going to focus on is also increasing our membership. Our membership has gotten larger, since the pandemic, which is great. And we're going to continue to, bring more people in. It's a wonderful space to be a part of, and I hope as many people who can experience the space in the ethic of care that's woven in here can continue on as well. But also, we need to give thanks. And I want to thank our current president, Risha Daniel Barnes. She's probably going to get mad at me, but I'm going to tell this story anyway. No, I'll skip that. I just want to just bullet point at just a couple of things what she's done in the 2 years as president. Okay, I don't know. Would you want think to yourself? Would you want to be in a leadership position during a pandemic? Yeah. Come on up. The next president. That's our next president-elect right there. So look, the point I was trying to make. Yes. Hey, we'll find them later, okay? But seriously though, Risha stepped into this. She led us through a pandemic, and she led us so well, And the thing that I think that at the foundation of all of it, we all have this commitment to ABA, but it was just a consistency. You have to have consistency to lead in this organization and other organizations as well. And we consistently had meetings. We consistently talked about the topics, and we were good. She was good at communicating all sorts of things to us. We took advantage of Zoom. We all are Zoom experts now. To meet regularly. She reminded us to follow actions that increased ABA transparency. And under her presidency, we won an award. The organization won an award under the presidency. So, Osama, Alexa, come on. We're giving you your flowers. So, come get your flowers. And then we're offering you a small gift on behalf of the whole ABA. You're welcome to open. You go ahead.
Before I open this, I forgot to, I thanked everybody on the executive board, and I called out some specific people. But I need to call out Karen and Mika. Because not only did they do a lot of the programming that we did on Zoom and keep us organized, they are always checking on me. They are always texting me. Oh, shoot, that's my phone. Thank you, Karen. See? Told you. Look at her taking care of me. They're always checking on me, always asking me if I need anything, telling me to breathe. Kamala, too, who's not here, always checking on me. Don sent me a gift just out the blue. Y'all, my team has been incredible. Lorian is in a writing group with me. Basama and Lexi, they're just, I don't want to call y'all little babies, but they're just my little babies. I just, I'm gonna miss y'all. I'm happy to turn this over, but I am gonna miss y'all. Thank you so much. I mean it. Thank you so much.
Are you gonna open that up? You wanna take a look at that? Okay, that's up to you. I would be like my kids and just go straight into like the gift. That's me.
I'll read these later. There's little messages. Also, can y'all hear me?
No, here, go ahead. Come back over here.
I had a gift for my team, my executive board. I had a gift for y'all, and the company I was getting it from messed it up. And so I could send it to you later. But I was gonna have it here. It's coming, but I just want y'all to know.
Oh, you gotta open the other stuff. Yeah, just go open the other stuff, please. Keep opening it. Come on, open it. It's okay. I got the warranty on that. Open the next one.
Y'all, I have been wanting one of these.
You want one?
I have.
You don't have one no more?
Did y'all know that I wanted this?
Mm-hmm.
Did I say this?
Yes, but I had to confirm it with a really good friend of mine.
Is there something else wrong?
It's a wireless speaker that she's been wanting for a long time. Merry Christmas!
Speaker and the charger and a case.
That's right, there you go.
It's gonna be a party after party in my room. In my speaker.
Hey. Excellent. So I believe that concludes the evening's activities, right?
We got a DJ.
Yeah, so folks, mingle.
Some music.
We'll put some music on. We're going to do our thing, okay?
And students, if you wanted Catherine Dunham's book, it was edited by Elizabeth Chin and has Lynn Bowles, Elizabeth Chin, Amy Meredith Cox, Donna Amy Davis, Aninga Marshall, Ronald Marshall, Kate Ramsey, and Rosemary A. Roberts are contributors. Come get one.
Come get your free copy. Yes, don't forget the food. We got things to take with you.
My sons of the throne. for the design. Oh, I just want some love. Oh, you know. And you seem so real. It's right there.
Look at you being on the tech 1 to 2.